Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Love the Craft Community Podcast Show. My name is Steve Van Ploot, and today I'm sitting with an award-winning leather holster maker who is known industry-wide. He teaches and shares his knowledge through lots of venues and through classes and stuff like that. I am so honored to be sitting here with this wonderful human being, and I would like to share and introduce you guys to Chris Andre. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Hey, it's a little windy and it's a good day, but we made it. We're here in Colorado.
We made it.
So I want to ask you to start off right from the jump. How did you get started in leathercraft and into holster making?
So growing up out here, we're kind of rurally isolated a little bit. I was an only child, stay-at-home mom. She did leather work. She used to do the doodle pages out of the magazine and stuff, and belts and wallets and whatnot for family gifts. And got started with that, doing a comb case in like 1975, I think. I was probably 7, 8 years old, 6 years old, whatever I was. And kept with it through 4-H and everything. I was real successful there. Took a 20-year break with Marines and family and all that kind of stuff. And when I got to a point in life where the kids were kind of on their own and I could get back into doing it for real, because once it's in you, it's in you. You can't just let it go. The tools are there staring at you. You got to keep doing it. And I happened to be acquainted with a gentleman named Dusty Johnson, who's a saddle maker, Pleasant Valley Saddle Shop. And at the time, he had his shop in Loveland, Colorado. And I went up to him, and I wanted to be a holster maker. I've been a competitive shooter since I was in junior high. We do the cowboy action shooting. I wanted to be a holster maker. And I said, Dusty, because he did the gun spinning game, right?
Yeah.
And he made all the fancy B-Western rigs for that. And I said, Dusty, I want you to teach me, holster making. And he says, no. Shocked me. I wasn't expecting him to say no. Yeah. And he says, you're going to take my saddle school because you're going to learn more about leather making in a saddle school than you'll ever learn in a holster shop. So I did. I took his class, and he was right, and I made a real nice saddle. But I stuck with holsters, A, because I'm a shooter, and B, I went with Western for the most part because there's room to play on cowboy holsters that you just don't have on concealed holsters or combat holsters. And it's kind of silly I do it all the time, but it's kind of silly to carve a concealed carry holster. Nobody ever sees it. It's concealed. That's the point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We call them barbecue rigs because that's what you wear open carry at the barbecue to show off your gun and your fancy holster. But the Western holsters gave me room to play. And a lot of them, they're expected to be carved. And customers want them carved in one fashion or another. And I've done cowboy rigs with vampire bats on them. I've done cowboy rigs with gothic scenes. I've done cowboy rigs with some of the craziest garbage you've ever seen. But that's what's fun. In doing those rigs is I get to play and be creative, and I don't just have to do Western floral all the time.
Yep.
For a fact, I hardly ever do Western floral.
So where does the slick bald name come from, and how did you get that attached to your name?
So that comes right out of the Marine Corps Bible. It's called the Green Monster. It's our book of knowledge. Okay, we get one in boot camp. It's like this big and like yay thick. And in there, of course, are all the regulations for every uniform, every hair on your body, how it should be kept and whatever. And one of the approved haircuts was slick bald. And in my 30s, I got tired of paying full price for half a haircut and shaved my head. And that happened to be about the time there was a great transition in my life. So I just kind of picked up that slick bald moniker and ran with it and made the logo and went from there.
Oh, I like the logo. It's a really nice. It's a really nice logo, and at least I enjoy it.
Good.
Now, I know you enjoy leather carving.
Yes.
Do you lean towards a particular style, or do you like to just have your own style?
When it comes to like your florals, I definitely kind of have developed my own style, and everybody does. If ideally, you're not just copying somebody else all the time or doing Stohlman patterns all the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with those patterns.
Yep.
But it's, I get to doing something. I don't like flowers. I like it when other people do cool flowers. That's all right. I ain't mad about it. But it's not what I like to do. So I do more of an engraving style. And I picked up a book from Ron Smith several years ago, which is basically how to draw an engraving style, gun engraving stuff. And there's lots of styles of engraving: German engraving, English engraving, American engraving. And I just kind of sat there one day. I think we were on our way to Prescott, and I had a day to kill in the bus. And I set the book up and I just started drawing this element and that element. And now I kind of put all that together and I have a little bit of a different style than most because I like the engraving style more so than the Western floral.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, I want to talk to you about the very first sponsor for the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show, and it is Leather Machine Company. If you are looking to upgrade your workshop or to speed up the process on making items, then look no further than Leather Machine Co. They have various sewing machines of multi-purpose needs, along with leather cutting and splitting machines. Check out their website or give them a call for more information. Now, let's go back to the show. Now, I know you have a massive blue gun collection.
It's pretty solid.
It's a pretty solid collection. Do you ever have to buy a new blue gun? And if you do you ever get excited about creating a new pattern for this?
Buying the blue gun doesn't excite me a whole lot, but creating the patterns does. That's my favorite probably thing to do in the shop is to solve a problem with a holster, or even just to make what I would consider one of my normal patterns, adapt to whatever gun that is, whether it's a 500 Smith or a SIG 365, which is a real small gun.
Yep.
The 500 Smith is a freaking cannon. So there are different procedures, different methodologies, different things to consider when you're doing these holsters, and that's what I really enjoy doing. And the holster business is more as much designing them. Once I've designed a holster, I don't want to make it anymore.
Now, speaking of holsters, are there any hurdles that you have to overcome with like insurance or anything legal wise because you're making someone a holster for their firearm?
Well, okay. First thing is I'm not a lawyer, so I might be wrong. I carry a general liability policy on my business, which covers the farm, covers the leather shop, covers the metal shop, covers everything.
Yeah.
As far as liabilities specific to holster making, if you're a big company, if you're Galco or if you're DeSantis or, one of these larger companies, they, I'm sure, have crazy liability insurance for someone doing something dumb with their gear and then trying to sue them for it.
Yep.
As a bespoke maker, a custom shop, I do not worry about it. I don't make certain holsters because I find there's liability in the design, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't make that holster. I make sure that my holsters have retention, and they're going to maintain that retention over time. A lot of holsters lose the retention because it's a single layer of leather, and the fibers, through use, those fibers start to lose. There's nothing to hold them in place. There's certainly a liability there that I would worry about if I made that kind of holster. But again, I don't. I make holsters that keep their retention for decades.
Yeah.
So I'm not too concerned about someone coming back on me with a lawsuit, because that's, the only real, I got in a gunfight and lost. That's the reason someone's going to try and blame your holster. Well, not my holsters, because I know how to make them.
Yeah.
To where they are right. Or I fell down, it came out, and the gun went off. Well, that's really a problem with the gun maker, but my holsters, I can do somersaults in my holsters, and the gun stays in the holster.
Yeah.
Without a strap, right?
Yep.
So I think it more comes down to firearm knowledge more so than holster knowledge when you're a holster maker. I always tell people in class, you got to play with the people you're going to make your gear for. I don't do mounted shooting. I grew up on a horse. I remember what it's like to go to a horse show on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning. I don't want to do that anymore. It's not as much fun as it used to be. So I like getting up, throwing my guns in the car, and doing the 3-gun game on the ground. So that's who I play with, and that's who I make holsters for. If you're a saddle maker, you better know a little thing or two about a horse, or you're going to be a crap saddle maker. Yep. If you're going to make tack, you better use it. You better have horses, and you better use that tack. Same with holsters or anything else. I don't make a lot of purses. You know why?
Because you don't use them.
I don't carry a lot of purses.
That's right.
I'm probably going to start just because it seems like fun to be a bag maker,
Yeah.
Like I said, I mentioned briefly earlier, I'm kind of stopping my commission work for the most part because I'm tired of working for other people. I don't have time to do the stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go a little sideways and kind of expand my teaching and patterns and whatnot. And there'll still be holsters in the purses. But
So I wanted to ask you, if someone came to you and said, hey, Chris, can you make a holster for this particular gun? And you say, yeah, I can do that for you. And they say, hey, Chris, we're going to give you full creative control over it. What process in that do you enjoy the most?
I think it's because they give me complete creative control, and as I say, it's a B Western rig, so I've got room to play. It's not some little micro holster. The hardest part is the blank canvas part, figuring out what I'm going to do. I usually try and make them give me at least a theme.
Yeah.
A genre of something. Don't just, Yeah,
you
said I've put vampire bats on stuff. Give me some guidance. That was guided by, I didn't choose to do that. I'm like, what? Realistic vampire bat. All right, we did it. Once I've vetted that design out, whatever I'm going to do to that holster, carving design-wise, loops, turquoise, inlays, whatever. It's the process. Once I've set all that in stone, it's the process of bringing it to life.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys that I hate everything I do until it's done. Because it doesn't look done, and if it's not done, it ain't right.
Yeah.
So it's the process of bringing that idea that I fought so hard for to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when making a holster, what are your thoughts on vacuum sealing?
I don't have a problem with vacuum sealing. I've tried it with the food savers. The plastic bags have little grooves in the bottom for the fluid to get out, which leaves marks, so I've never really gotten too far on that. I've also had trouble because the plastic isn't very giving, leaving wrinkle marks in the leather.
Yeah.
If you have a vacuum table, which is fairly easy to make, and you have a latex frame, a frame with latex in it, and you have some neoprene on the bottom, so there's compliance under the gun, and you hit that with a proper vacuum, 20 inches of mercury or whatever, it's going to suck that thing down, and it's going to make a really nice mold. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all, if you have the ability to either buy or make that system. It's something I look forward to playing with. I was down in a holster shop in Texas a few weeks ago, and they had one, the vacuum frame like that. God dang, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm over here with a hydraulic press. That was like 2 seconds. That was pretty neat. So I think it's a good opportunity for someone who wants to vet it out and prove it out.
And what's the longevity of a leather holster like? Do they loosen up over time, or
even the way I make them, they're still going to loosen up a little bit over time.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into a full holster class, but the way I put my liners in, the material I use, which is the same material on the inside as it is on the outside, thickness and everything, there's a mechanical advantage to that if you get kind of down into the physics of the leather. Whereas a single layer holster, I think I touched on it a minute ago, the more you use it, the looser it's going to get, to the point where you're going to have to replace it. If you use it a lot, and a lot of people don't use their holsters. They'll wear a holster every day, but they won't go out to the range and practice. They won't stand in their shop and empty their gun, or stand in their living room and draw, which they should.
Yep.
I do. I have a laser gun on my bench, and there was red and black. I don't know if you saw it. It's a laser gun. I can pick it up and shoot an Indian. Not an Indian. Bev Doolittle painting of an Indian. And I can hit that little dude from 30 feet away with no sights because I practice.
Yeah.
Right? I come out of the holster a lot because I practice. That's how I know my holsters hold up, because I come out of the holster several times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Just standing there in the shop.
Just practicing, yeah. And you've...
the single layer holster is gonna wear out infinitely faster than a double layer holster.
Yeah.
Now, Kydex technically lasts forever. There's a whole lot of debate on Kydex. Kydex will wear the finish off your gun faster than anything you can put it in. It's loud, it's clacky, it's not organic. I don't care for it. To be fair, you see most of your cops, your law enforcements, they're wearing Kydex rigs because those guys abuse the crap out of their gear.
Yeah.
And leather does wear out faster than Kydex does. That's a given. But in the general market, outside the law enforcement military market, leather is the way to go. It's softer, it's quieter, it's more organic. It feels better on your body than plastic does.
Yeah. Hey everyone, our second sponsor for the Leathercraft Community Podcast Show is none other than the Leather Crafters Journal. Carrying on a tradition of 68 years of publishing the magazine for leather workers and artists worldwide, They also host 3 trade shows in the United States and 1 in Europe. Give them a call or visit their website and use the promo code COMMUNITY, and you will receive an additional free magazine added to your subscription at no charge. The Leathercrafters Journal truly sets the standard with staying up to date on all things leathercraft. If it's about leather, it's in the journal. Now, back to our show. Let's talk about this wonderful Herman Oak project, this mosaic project that you're a part of. That I know it's been a labor of love for you. And so, can you let's take the audience back to what is the project, and how it got started, and how it got presented.
Sure. The project itself is a large mosaic mural. There's 2 of them. The original concept, Todd Stohlman, the GM of Herman Oak, came to me and he said, we were going to do this project where we sent out a square of leather to all the different makers that use our leather that we're aware of, have them carve it, send it back, and kind of wallpaper the office with it. And then somebody, I don't remember who it was, had this deal, well, we could do that, but make something else out of it. So have all these pieces that all these artists have done, but we'll make something into something else, like a mural. And somehow Todd decided I was the guy for the job, bless his heart. And here we are. It was supposed to have been done for Sheridan last year. This is 2024. Sheridan's coming up. And we just couldn't get the pieces back fast enough. And the learning curve was steep.
Yep.
And so it's taken a whole nother year. But we're going to make it this year. I've got the display built. We've got almost all the pieces. That's a whole nother story. But it's a big effing project. It is a huge deal. It didn't start out that way. It was just supposed to go on a wall in the office. As you walk into Herman Oak, there's a big, long wall. And now all of a sudden, I got to make a display so it can go to these shows and it can be on tour. And we're doing a coffee table book to showcase all the artists and having a plaque made. I got to make a plaque on that machine you saw out there that shows everybody's name on it and what number of pieces they were. And so it's turned into a big ass project.
Yes, it sure has.
It really has. And a lot of learning, because it's not like there's a YouTube video for how to make a mural like this out of leather.
Yep.
There's a lot of marquetry stuff for wood that don't mean squat in leather because it's just a different material.
Yeah.
But it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I'm looking forward to it being done. I promise you that.
So I know you, and I really love that you do a lot of teaching. You really like to share your knowledge with other fellow leather crafters and new beginners and stuff like that in the leather world. And I know that you're really teaching so many classes. I took one of your classes, actually. I enjoyed it. So if anybody wants to take a class, I highly recommend it. Can you tell people what class topics you teach and where they can find you and sign up for a class?
Sure. These days, I mostly teach holster and sheath making. I also teach, they call it demystifying the Class 4 and Class 26 stitcher, which seems to be a pretty popular class. I used to teach a lot of carving, and the market has just kind of grown in the carving instructor world. There's a lot more of us than there used to be. And that's fine. They do different stuff than I do. They do more of the Western floral, a lot of them, the figure carving, and that's great. So I don't teach that at the shows anymore. But I do teach it, like if a guild calls me up and wants me to come, they've got 10 people, and I can work it into the schedule. I'll fly out and teach, carving and whatnot, and stone setting and filigree and, inlays and all that kind of tricky stuff that I like to do.
Yeah.
But mostly at the shows, and I say the shows, of course, that's the Leathercrafter and Saddler, or actually it's just the Leathercrafters Journal now, isn't it? They just changed. It's going to, 15 years I've been saying it the other way. And they put on their 4 shows a year, and I teach at every show. I usually teach at the International Federation of Leather Guilds show, which will be in St. Louis this coming year, coming fall.
Yep.
And I have pattern packs in every major retailer. Montana Leather just picked me up, so that's every major leather retailer and the supply retailer in the country carries all my pattern packs, and there will be much more of those. And I just went live on Kindle last week with a couple of my pattern packs, and we're getting it so Amazon can ship the patterns for me and print them and everything else.
All right, so you won the 2022 Al Stohlman Award, and it is a very prestigious award. Can you explain how does somebody achieve such an award, and how does that process all start?
First off, it is a tremendous honor to even be nominated for the award, but certainly to receive it. Its purpose, as I understand it, is to showcase or highlight, if you will, or at least recognize people who have done a lot for the industry. People who have done a lot of teaching or gone out of their way to provide the industry, help it grow, I guess, with a lack of words here. It's a very humble award. You don't see a lot of people out. There's no politics. Well, there's politics on the other side, but as far as the contestants go or the nominees go, there's no politicking. It's a humble award, in my mind. Tremendous, again, honor to receive it. There's no real way to go out and get it. You just be you. I mean, I started teaching. I've taught at every trade show in this country and Europe for the last 14 years. Every one that they've held, I've taught at. I have the pattern packs. I've had those out for 14 years. I've sold tens of thousands of copies of those pattern packs. I have no secrets. I try to, if someone has a problem, I want to help them because I grew up without any resources and I had to figure it out. Some I figured out right, some I had to redo. But at the end of the day, it's really, you have to be nominated. And once you're nominated, you have to write an autobiography on yourself, which is the hardest thing on the planet, to write the word. I don't know how many times I used I, but you have to reference yourself so many times. It's just sickening for most of us anyway.
Yeah, because it's so hard to write about yourself.
You don't want to write about yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you had to, you have to list all your little things that you did, all your accomplishments, and all the shows you went to, and pictures of work, and all this garbage. And you rarely get it on your first go. I was nominated 3 times. Once in 2015, and I politely declined because I didn't feel my story was long enough. And then again, the year Jurgen won it, which I think was 2020. And then again in 2022 when I got it. So it's not a tick the boxes kind of a checklist. You kind of just have to give your all. And it's not, I don't think it's a great idea to have it as a goal.
Yeah.
I think it should be you live your life and do what you do for leatherwork out of the heart, out of your own heart.
Yep.
And if you're nominated and you're once or twice or a couple, 3 times, whatever it takes, great. I don't think it should be something, I don't think it's a goal you should set. I think it's something you should be awarded with based on your efforts unconsciously.
Yeah. Now, I want to transition back to holster making.
Okay.
And do you have any tips for entry level or beginner people who are interested in making a holster? Where should they start, or any knowledge that they can take from you from listening to this podcast right now?
I'll circle back. You gotta make gear for the people you play with or the people you know that know you. If you're going to get into the combat holster game, you need to spend time at the range, getting to know people. You need to learn and study. Obviously, holster making. I would strongly, of course, recommend my educational materials. They are professional grade instructions and patterns. You got to really love it, just like anything else. If you're going to get into wallet making, you got to have a knack for it. You're going to be a bag maker, a shat maker, a saddle maker. You got to love that game and that process. I love making holsters. I cannot work. I do a lot of stuff with Mernicle down in Pampa, Texas. They are big cowboy action, or the cowboy action factory, if you will. I couldn't work in that factory. It'd be fun because my buddies are there,
Yeah.
But I couldn't just sit there and stitch holsters all day or mold holsters all day. So you got to figure out what you want to do and what you want your business to look like. If you want to make 100 holsters a month and set up at gun shows, great, do that. But you better be able to talk the talk when it comes to why you should wear a holster this way and why you shouldn't wear a holster that way, because your customers see crap on TV. They don't know what they're doing. They're not shooters. I was a Marine Corps marksmanship instructor, combat instructor. been playing the games for a long time, I have a bit of a foundation. Now, I'm not an IPSC shooter. I don't go out and shoot IDPA. There's a lot of things I don't do. There's a lot of things I think people do are silly. So you really kind of have to find someone in the industry that does the kind of shooting you do. And if you're not a shooter, don't make holsters. Just don't. Just don't.
Yeah.
Don't make holsters if you're not a shooter. You don't know how, why, or when to make a holster, or what makes a good holster. And it's YouTube videos. There's a lot of garbage on YouTube. There's a lot of really good stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
But if you don't know the difference, you're kind of out of luck. You're taking a crapshoot on who you're listening to on YouTube. So if you're new and you're a shooter and you really want to go out and start making your own holsters, I absolutely stand behind you. You're not going to hurt my business. Go. But get the experience before you hang out the shingle.
Yep.
You know, make stuff for your friends, make stuff for your own guns first. Show it to your people, not your friends, because your friends don't know crap either. Go to the range and talk to whoever the instructor is at your range. And maybe you'll get good information, maybe you won't. Instructors are like holster makers. They're not all the same, they're not all good. But at the same time, it's a gradual process.
Yep.
I think above anything else, you know, you kind of have to work into holster making through the shooting sport.
Yep.
In my opinion, to do it, you know, once in a while for your buddy down the street, that's different. But if you're going to be a holster maker, you better be a shooter first.
Gotcha. One of my favorite questions to ask, and we're going to wrap up this interview here. I love this, and I love picking people's brains on it. What is one of your favorite tools or machines in your shop that you love using?
You've seen my shop, and I showed you my favorite stamp. But I have to say, God damn it, honestly, it's a manila folder and a pencil. That's how I design my holsters. At the end of the day, you know, the Class 4 Cobra makes the most money in the shop. The Class 14 Splitter makes the second most money in the shop. There's other machines in there, and I love them, but they're money makers. They're make my life easier tools. They don't bring out your creativity, right?
Yeah.
The stamps bring the creativity to a fruition. But to sit down with a piece of a folder and a gun of any shape, size, or whatever, and a pencil and a ruler, that's where I'm probably my happiest.
Yeah.
Is with that stupid manila folder.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I also want to give you a chance to let the audience know, how can they contact you if they have any questions about your patterns or anything like that?
Email. I do not answer my phone. We live rural. I have bad signal to begin with. It's an interruption. I'm the only guy in my shop. So just have to stop and talk on the phone is a tremendous annoyance for me. But I answer emails pretty quickly, usually every morning. There are typically no holster emergencies, so it can wait till tomorrow.
And what is your email?
slickbald@slickbald.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks again for Chris, and
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
All right, you guys, thank you for watching another episode, and I'll see you on next month's episode. Take care.